Good day. I'm Dave, and this is the Offsite Insight podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the Creative Co-op Advertising and Design. If you have any marketing or advertising needs, please reach out to Gino and the team at tcco.ca. We are super excited to have Curtis Mercer here, this current CHBA national president. Welcome, Curtis, and thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, Curtis, for those who may not be as familiar with you, tell us a little bit about your backstory, where you came from, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so not a traditional trajectory. I think to a national president of a home building industry. I started, I guess my career in university. I did a Bachelor of Commerce degree. I came out and actually started working in municipal governments. I was a town CAO starting off, which was pretty interesting. Learned the ropes the day I walked into the first job. Every one of my employees had worked for the municipality longer than I was born. So that was an uphill battle, but got to learn a lot of stuff about how municipalities work, how they should work, and where the inconsistencies are. So that kind of transfers. From there, I actually went and worked with the federal government, a couple of different departments, everything from data entry up to team lead and project manager, but really didn't like being tied down. A lot of decisions you couldn't make yourself. I always kind of wanted to branch out and do something for myself. So my wife's parents had a home building company that is 50 years old this year. And in, I guess somewhere around 2013, we were on a family vacation and our father approached us and was like, "Hey, I'm looking to retire at some time in the future. Either one of you guys interested in stepping in?" And my wife was like, "Nope, I grew up in this industry. I know all the hours that you need to put in. I'm cool." And I was like, "You know what? I really don't know a lot about building. I've always been a little bit hands-on, but decided, hey, let's give it a go." So I took a leave of absence from the feds and stepped in and took a role as general manager for a year. And from there, realized that I really enjoyed it. It was a great industry to be involved in. And so I left the feds, and that was 2013. Took ownership of the company in 2015. So my father-in-law was past president of CHBA Newfoundland. And he kind of said when I got into it, it was like, the best way to get to know everybody in the industry is start attending CHBA events. So started going, learning who the key players were, who my competition was, who allies could be, sub-trades, those types of things. And it was great. And I guess, when you start putting your hands up and asking questions and stuff, people recognize very quickly that you're now going to be nominated to run on the board. So probably within the first 6 months, the board of directors had a member step down, and I was asked to fill the position for a year. And
look at us now.
Yeah. So it kind of just rolled into. I went through the ranks of CHBA Newfoundland, was president in 2019. And then actually during COVID, our EO left. So they actually asked me to step in for a couple of months and serve as EO while they were going through a search. That was supposed to be a 2 to 3 month, and I think it was about 2 years. So that gave me a different insight again as to how CHBA runs from the inside out. So that was great. And then throughout all of that, like I started representing Newfoundland at the national level as a renovator. Then I got on the board of directors and on the executive as treasurer and the presidential appointee, and kind of worked my way up through the ranks. It's been a long journey, but it's pretty much started from like within 6 months of me getting in the industry, getting involved, and just 10, 12, 13 years, whatever it's been now. So it's fantastic. But it's a little bit of background.
That is fantastic. I have to laugh because your story is very, very similar to mine. Bachelor of Business Admin, first job out of industry. When I left the accounting firm, I was I was the director of finance, and everyone there had been there longer than me. I had a gentleman who worked with me, Kevin, great guy. He was 40 years my senior. And then my father-in-law wanted to retire, and so I took
Okay, yeah,
and we're a renovator, and
yeah,
I'm the current treasurer of the Simcoe County Home Builder Association.
yeah,
So this is my third year on the board, and next year I'll be trying to run for vice president.
yeah,
So, very similar story,
yeah,
and I'd like to see you in 10 years and see where we're both at. It
yeah,
seems
yeah,
really
for
fun.
sure.
So, getting into your role now at CHBA, what does a typical year look like?
So, like, I guess as president's a little bit different, even on the executive. Like, it's evolved. We meet quite regularly as an executive running the association, but a lot of background stuff. Like, typical, we have our national meetings, our conferences in May. We have our day on the hill in February. And then in October, we do meetings again, but intertwined and all that. There's a lot of government interaction. But as president, I guess the coolest part is doing stuff like this.
Sure.
I get the ability to travel the country, meet with members, meet with all of our constituent
Yeah.
associations, hear right from the grassroots about what the actual issues are, give the members the updates as to what we're doing at the national level and help try and guide what we do at the national level to serve the members' benefits.
Right.
So, yeah, it's time consuming. It takes a lot of time away from personal business and family.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think you get way more out of it than you put into it through family, friends, people that you meet,
Absolutely.
learn how people do things differently in different provinces. What are the new market trends that you see coming? So there's a little
Yeah.
bit of personal advantage that you get for your own business as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like even behind the scenes, there's a lot of meetings, a lot of virtual stuff as well.
Yep.
But you start getting involved with all the different things, so audits and all this type of thing with the association. So on a typical week, I probably am spending 5 to 10 to 20 hours
Right.
at CHBA stuff.
Yeah.
And that varies depending on when I'm on the road, that kind of thing. But
Right.
it's a very busy couple of years for the executive, and it's a year as president. And my presidency is a little bit different. I'm actually doing 16 months. It's extended a little bit, but it's good because I can spread out some of my visits and get more time at home. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's busy, extremely rewarding, and to get out and meet everybody is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's very cool because I like to think, our industry is big, it's massive, it's probably one of the largest employers in Canada, but it's also very tight knit.
Yeah.
So, getting the opportunity to travel across the country to meet people who face similar challenges across Canada would be a very cool experience.
Yeah.
So, using that as a segue, what's something that's a common challenge kind of across Canada? Because we don't need to get into, Newfoundland versus Ontario versus Alberta, because while there's similarities, there's also big differences. So what would you say is a common challenge?
So I would say like there are a couple of common challenges that we have, and it's all just economies of scale because every province is a little bit different in numbers of housing and pricing and those types of things.
Yeah.
Uh, right across the country, the price of home ownership
Yeah.
is huge. The ability to sell those houses because they cost so much upfront. And that comes down to everything that goes into it. If it's your DCs, if it's your building materials, government red tape, taxes, all those types of things, even building code and what building code is adding to the cost.
Yeah.
So, that's probably the biggest commonality that I see right across the country is the price of housing is escalating at such a rate that people's wages are not.
Right.
So it's getting so hard to either save for down payments, get mortgages, or just be able to afford not even what you want,
Right.
but be able to afford anything.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's changing, and like we see it daily, and some stats that we just did nationally. Like most Canadians, their goal is home ownership.
Yeah.
And most everybody still has that goal, but the level of people who are now seeing it as not attainable in the future is growing and growing. And it's so sad, right? And there are so many things that we can do and that we are trying to do to help negate the cost. Like I mentioned, building code.
Yeah.
Like the national building code right now, in the 2025 building code, from the numbers that we've ran on just a change from 2020 to 2025, on the average house across Canada, it's $60,000.
Oh my goodness.
Is just the changes in building code.
So a house built 6 years ago,
Yep.
to a house built today, all other things being equal,
All it
costs
so it's
$60,000 more to build a house.
just because of building code changes.
Right.
And if you look at the energy side of the building code, so you go with your tiered systems, and depending on where your municipality or your province decides to go, tier 1 to tier 5, that's a possible another $50,000.
So a max of $110,000, depending on, I mean, all other things. I would assume that these benefits in the new building code are small in comparison to
There are
$110,000.
So in our review, there are some things that make sense.
Yeah.
Right. And there's always like you want houses to be built right so that they last longer.
Absolutely.
You know, it's all about client and consumer protection. You want to build something that lasts. You want to build something that's safe.
Yep.
But there are so many changes that nobody can really understand what's the purpose.
Right.
Right. Like, for example, in BC, they've got a huge wing with seismic roads and lateral roads.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen any houses falling down because of the old code.
Right.
Right. So where's the research?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things that we're seeing. So at the national level, we've actually written to the federal government and working with all our provincial counterparts to basically ask all provinces to not adopt the 2025 National Building Code,
Right.
and send it back to the government. Say, this is not right. We're in a housing crisis. Prices are rising too quick. You need to slow this down. We need to figure it out and put things in code that make sense.
Yep.
And actually do a full review as to what is necessary in building code.
Yeah. I mean, because as you know, the building code is, in Ontario is 2 volume. That's about this big in total.
Yeah.
Which is a challenge because you can put together a house a lot simpler, still being safe, still being well constructed, without the minutia in this 3,000 page document that doesn't, sometimes I struggle with the value that we're providing the general public, right? Because that's what it comes down to. I want to build a project and a product that is going to last, that's going to be safe, that everyone is going to be assured is going to last for a period of time, not forever.
Yep.
But is going to be safe. I don't know if this equates to that.
Yeah.
And especially, as you said, like there's a housing crisis in terms of affordability.
Yep.
And if you're adding 50 or 60 or $110,000 to that product without getting $110,000 worth of benefit back, it just makes the whole thing a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, that's just building code. Like everybody knows prices of everything are going. Like the price of fuel, the price of anything plastic related now is going through the roof. So the cost just keeps going up and up and up. Municipalities adding on their DC charges and all of these other infrastructure charges. It's continuously just rising to a point where it's not sustainable.
Yeah. That's right. And I think we're really seeing that even in our local market, the movement of houses for sale, of new houses starts, all of those things are starting to, or continuing to be stagnant or slowing down. And I'm sure you could probably comment that that's similar across.
Yeah, across Canada, like we're starting to see some of the big regions. Ontario obviously has been down for a couple of years. BC is starting to struggle. Alberta's coming off a high and kind of stagnated, but everybody is there's nobody that's really kind of taken a giant peak. Right.
Yeah.
Whereas normally, if you look back through all the years, as one goes down, one goes up.
Yeah. But
now it's kind of everybody is either down or they're just kind of leveling off.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, which is difficult. So, it's unfortunate. There are a bunch of things that we're doing nationally to try and correct it.
Yeah.
Ontario has just had a huge win with the HST, PST relief on new housing, which is phenomenal. Like 100,000, 130,000. Yeah. So like, that's great. Now announcement supposed to be coming on the reduction of DCs for your municipalities who want to work with the federal government and actually increase housing in there. So that's great. And it's fantastic. But the issue that we've seen is, I think we're like 9-10 weeks since the announcement and paperwork is not in place. People are still sitting on the sidelines because, okay, great announcement, huge. I've heard a lot of builders, like sales offices peaked. Oh my God, we had amazing sales, but now everybody's kind of waiting We don't know. Builders are like, well, should I sign a purchase and sales agreement because I don't actually know what's going to
Right.
look like?
Yeah.
Can I recoup the cost if it's assigned to me? Homeowners like, well, if I can't get that reduction, I can't actually afford the house.
Yeah.
So now they're going back to sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So, it's government announcements and government getting involved is great, but
Yeah.
we really, the
Yeah.
devil's into details, and those need to be figured out and need to be figured out quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always that like you as a business owner, as an individual who participates in the economy, uncertainty is a bad thing. So any case where we're creating uncertainty is generally not a good thing. It's always good. Hey, here's the announcement. I agree. It's a great tool, I think, to bring more people to the table to purchase houses and to get into their first home, whatever the case may be. But if they don't have the certainty of how it's going to look, um, it creates a lot more challenges.
Yeah.
Can you speak to any other wins on the national level that you're kind of, is particularly excited about? Or
So there are a couple of ones that recently, well, like a couple of big wins that we've had over the years or in the past couple of years. Like the increase back up to 30-year amortizations was great.
Yeah.
I think we can go further than that, especially on first-time home buyers.
Yep.
We've got some other stuff with GST on first-time home buyers. Now, what we've seen since the Ontario announcement is the federal government has announced $1.73 billion for other provinces to increase housing and decrease costs of housing.
Right.
Which is, again, a great announcement. The problem is that announcement is pushing the money out to the provinces with no rules and regulations.
Right.
Right. So now each province is kind of fight as to, well, how do we do it? What is the best means and how do we figure this out?
Yeah.
And, how do we actually impact the cost of housing, right?
For the end user.
For the end user.
Yeah.
So the federal government also announced $50 billion to improve or reduce, remove, or freeze DCs.
Right.
Which is fantastic again. And I think there's an announcement coming soon on how that's going to lay out and how the municipalities need to take part and be part of that. And DCs on its own, I think people are starting to understand now what DCs are, how municipalities have these huge pots of money in reserve, not being used properly. So it's the pot of money that the federal government has announced is fantastic, with the conversations around it. Now I think they're opening up the eyes of municipal governments and stuff as we need to relook at how we're doing this.
Yeah.
Because people are going to start asking questions. Right. Some of the other ones that have come out, and I'm going to take them as wins for the industry, fully not disclosed yet as to what's going to be, but under the fall economic statement, the spring economic statement that just came out. So they're looking at things for labor.
Right.
So there's an announcement of up to, I think it's $400 per week for apprentices that they can tap off and get paid while they're taking your courses.
Right.
And then an extra $5,000 or $10,000 once they get their journeyman.
Right.
So we all know that there's a labor shortage right across Canada, especially in our industry. It's going to get worse over the next few years. So anything on the labor side, they've also announced that they're going to work towards an industrial strategy for housing, which goes back to what us at CHBA, we created a couple of years ago, the housing transition strategy, which is basically how do we figure out how we build more with less people.
Right.
So, and that goes back to panelization, modular building, those types of things. And how do we integrate those into stick build?
Yeah.
How do we integrate that into renovations?
Yes.
Because we're not going to have as many people. We're not going to have as many sub-trades.
Right.
So how do we get factory side of things and robotics and all this? How does that feed into, but not eliminate the stick build? Right.
Yeah.
So we all need to figure out how we work together. So it's great to have those kinds of good things. I think the biggest win for our industry over the past couple of years is actually the federal government and Canadians recognizing the importance of housing, the importance of our industry, and a housing crisis through the increasing costs. It's now on top of mind of everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And it gives us the ability to open more doors for conversations. So to me, that's it. It's unfortunate that we're in this situation, but it's a huge win that we now have the opportunity to reach politicians at all levels,
Right.
to reach staff at all levels.
Yeah.
And we have now the support of Canadians.
Right. I mean, we've got this giant problem that we're part of the solution of.
Yeah.
And now we can say, hey, here's what we think is the best way to get us out of this in some ways. Because I think it's a big challenge. I'm in my early 30s and I look at some of my contemporaries around and they fall into that category where like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford a house, right? They can have good jobs, but the market took such a steep incline over the last, I'm going to say in Ontario, maybe 10 years. Since 2015, it's really started to do this for a long time. And it feels like, a lot of my friends are, I just might never own a house. I'm going to have to rent for the rest of my life. And whether they have good jobs or not, it's a challenging thing because it starts to delay maybe other decisions in their life, like whether they're getting married or having kids. And this is something that I think is playing out all across Canada. So the sooner that we can solve this problem, the better. But to your point, it's got all the attention and recognition right now. So as we move forward now, I think we've got, I like to think you've got the microphone. The government is listening, because sometimes we have the microphone and the government's not listening, but we've got the microphone, the government is listening. What are the top priorities for you for the rest of your term or for the organization as a whole?
So some of the big things that we're still working on that I think will help not only impact the cost of housing and reducing that, but how we access funding. So one big thing that we're still working on is mortgage rules and stress tests. Right. Because even as we remove costs and barriers on the cost of home ownership, the stress test is still testing people at higher interest rates than we'll probably ever see again. Right. And that's limiting your buying power. Right. So and again, in spring economic statement, that the federal government has recognized that that's an issue, and they're going to start working towards how do we do this. One of the other things that we're looking for is through CMHC and now Build Canada Homes that the federal government has just announced, there's a lot of programs that are kind of being geared towards rental and affordable and subsidized housing, those types of things. But we're pushing towards now, how do we get more government programs to help home ownership and builders that are in that space, missing middle and those types of things. So looking for, and one good thing that we've seen now, Build Canada Homes, that's its own kind of thing. But what we're seeing is it looks like the separation between Build Canada Homes and CMHC will actually be good for our industry. It seems like Build Canada Homes is going to focus mostly on non-home ownership. So rental, subsidized housing, and programs for that. CMHC looks like it's going to be a dedicated body for home ownership. Right. So how do we get funding models from the government that we can do project funding at lower interest rates, similar to what we've seen on the rentalship side? So if we can do developments at lower interest rates, we can decrease home ownership. So there's a couple of things that we're working on there with that. Again, on GST relief, we've seen it for first-time home buyers. Ontario has it. We've seen this pot of money. I think it needs to be removed in a housing crisis right across the board, all new homes, and major renovations. It, like, even to the point of, well, if you're adding a subsidiary apartment, adding a new dwelling unit. So why is that not being part of it? The whole thing is we need more units, all different shapes and sizes, the supermarket. So those are a couple of things. Big thing, again, I mentioned briefly, is building code. That's a huge one that we're fighting. There are a lot of things coming. We really need to sit down, slow it down, figure out what is building code actually need. Like I'm a builder renovator out of Newfoundland. We're not saying what we have is the answer by any means. A lot of our province doesn't adopt the National Building Code. It pushes it to municipalities. Some municipalities do inspections, some don't. But guess what? Our houses aren't falling down. People aren't dying. So somewhere between Newfoundland, we need to be more regulated. Ontario, BC, the rest of Canada probably needs less regulation. Somewhere in the middle I think is a building code that makes sense for Canadians. It provides safe housing, affordable housing, and longevity of housing. That's essentially what we're looking for.
Right.
So how do we make sure that we do that? And how do we get the federal government involved in such a way
Yep.
that they understand code has to be here for this reason and this reason only?
Right. We want to make sure that, as you said, we're making safe, efficient houses that can last a long period of time.
Yeah.
How do we achieve that?
Exactly.
Right? How do we achieve that to make sure, we're not adding $100,000 of costs that are potentially unnecessary to, Joe Smith who wants to buy his first home or his second home. Um, it's a challenging time in the industry. We hear it at the local as we're having our dinner meetings. Like, it's a challenging time, whether you're a trade, a renovator, a builder. Um, just this, I'm going to call it a stagnation of the market, is challenging. You still sound like you're pretty optimistic. So what's giving you that optimism about our industry?
Well, I think as I have the ability to travel the country and see what's happening, some provinces that have been at a low and now are starting to pick up. We start to see government involvement. We're starting to see more municipalities come to the table and actually want to have these conversations. At the end of the day, municipalities are losing out on tax funding,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're losing out on growth of their communities. So there's a lot of good conversations that are coming out. Housing is going to be a priority for years to come.
Yeah.
We know that people want housing. We know that there's an effort to reduce the cost to break that barrier so people can get there. So I think the optimism is just coming from all the conversations that we're having, all the little things that you're seeing. Yeah, sure, they're probably not happening as quickly as we would like.
Yeah.
But we know the market is there.
Yep.
We know the market, it's just being held back. Right. So seeing everything that we have the opportunity to see at the national level looking down, it is going to change. It may take time, and the timelines are going to be different in different regions across the country. But there is a market there. We just are working towards it, and I'm optimistic as to the conversations that we can have, and I think we're going to have more going forward as to different means that we can do to get people in the home ownership and create a housing continuum in all regions across the country.
Yeah. So we have this end goal, and as you said, it's going to take time, but hopefully we're continuing to plan for the future. The demand is going to be there, I think, for a very long time as we continue to welcome new Canadians, as we continue to have kids. All of these things, and we live longer, right? We live longer than we did 50 years ago, and so we still need houses for those people as well. I want to switch gears a little bit. You've traveled across the country. You've seen lots of different locals. Can you kind of explain to someone who's thinking about joining one, what kind of the benefits that they may see or get, or how has it helped you in your professional career as well?
So, it's a hard question, and I always relate it to, it's like a gym membership.
Sure.
If you don't go to the gym,
Yep.
you're going to get very little out of it.
Right.
Okay. So the membership is one thing, and there are benefits that you get just by being a member.
Yep.
You get some recognition. People are starting to understand what the home builders is about. It gives you a little bit above the person who's not. There are member benefits that we get on the national level through discounts, which I think is also something that's not used widely enough, and a lot of our members don't actually know about it or understand it.
Yeah.
But they're a huge discount, and not only for the company, but for all your staff.
Right.
So any member company, all their staff is eligible for all these things, and that's anything from travel, rental cars, hotels, computers, insurance,
Right.
personal and business.
Yeah.
Like my business, myself, through our national program over the past probably 5 years, we've had discounts of over $37,000 on tickets.
Wow.
I got to pay a lot of membership dues.
Yeah. To make that up. Right?
To make that up,
Yeah,
right? And it's
absolutely.
only because you're a member.
Yeah.
But like even my staff.
Yep.
So one of my staff was like, "I'm looking for a vehicle. Go check it out. You're eligible for the same discount." Cool. What a great thing. But on the business level, it's being part of it. You get to be part of it. You get to network with people. But the more that you can get out and get involved, I think the more you see out of it on a professional level and on an individual level. You get to meet people. and I say this kind of jokingly wherever I go, but like you get a group of members and they can either be trades or they can be builders or renovators, but we're all kind of feeling the same sentiment.
Yeah.
And when we get in a room, it's like a therapy session,
Sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that in itself, when you leave, it's either a dinner meeting or a luncheon or just, grabbing a beer with some other
Yeah.
members, you kind of leave and say, it's not just me,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
There's a way forward. We're all feeling the same
Yeah.
pinches, like we're all seeing the same things. So that in itself, like the ability to communicate with others in the same industry, and even if they might be competitors,
Sure.
but still,
Yep.
like being part of the organization, you get that, and growing and what you see, either being involved at your local level or your provincial level, getting out to events or getting involved and volunteering. The more time you put into it, I find you get a lot more back out of it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a there's a lot of financial benefits, there's a lot of business benefits, but for the person getting in there, and it's either for your staff getting to know people, you can make connections, right?
Yeah.
There's just so much good things that come out of it, and you get to know and be part of what we're driving on an advocacy level.
Right.
So if there's issues that you're seeing,
Yeah.
you can be part of how do we fight the problem,
Right.
and how do we actually go and make change.
Right. Because we've got voices at, the local level dealing with your municipality, the provincial level dealing with the Ontario
Yeah.
government, and then obviously with yourself at the national level.
Yeah.
Because as you said, there's similarities and differences, across the country, but sometimes they're the same problem. And that's where you come in and help, make sure that on the federal level we've got the megaphone, they're listening. If you don't know there's an issue, it's hard
Yeah.
to make a recommendation. But
Yeah.
you're hearing from people all across the country about, hey, this is a challenge we're having. This is a challenge that we're having. And that's a benefit of being a member, is that you have that voice both at Queen's Park, but also in Ottawa.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's one great point that you made. It's like becoming a member at a local level, you're actually part of a huge group because you have that federated model of you're automatically a member at the provincial level. You're automatically a member at the national level. So you're part of a huge group of like-minded individuals,
Right.
fighting the same fight.
Yeah.
Right. So it's there's lots of things that you can get benefit, but obviously the more you get involved, the more you get, and we are all there trying to fight the same fight. So the more voices that we had singing from the same songbook, I think the stronger we'll be.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, Curtis, I think it's amazing that you came out. You visited Simcoe County Home Builders Association. Thank you for doing that. Is there any final thoughts that you would want to share with our SCHBA members?
Yeah, sure. Just I guess as even part of a recap, like obviously, the members in the local, you are the grassroots members of our association. The grassroots and boots on the ground is where we at national get our information. It's how we see our guiding light as to, are we headed in the right direction? Do we need to change course? Are we fighting the right fight?
Right.
Right. So issues that you have, anything like that, make sure that they're passed up through the channels. You go through your local, then it goes through your provincial, not through your national level. We love to hear about what's happening and make sure that we are steering the right thing. Get out, get involved, take a look at everything that your membership actually is involved, because you are a member of all three levels.
Right.
And you probably have things at the provincial level that are
Yeah.
as a benefit to a member and at the national level. So, take a look at what you've signed on for, because there are probably benefits that you don't know. The more you get engaged, the more that you'll get from it. And the other last final plug I'll say is, like, at all levels, we always host our National Housing Awards. So we love to see projects from right across the country. Sometimes we see different areas are like, oh, well, it's hard to compete with this area or that area
Sure,
because
yeah.
pricing and those types of things. But we all offer amazing housing and amazing projects right across the country. And seeing your project either as a finalist or as a winner at the national level hugely benefits your business and your brand.
Yeah.
So love to see more people showcase what they do. Just keep fighting the fight and keep working. Things are going to change.
One day at a time, right?
Yeah.
Well, Curtis, thank you again for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think you have some plans for the rest of the day, but it's great to see you here in Simcoe County, and we look forward to seeing you and your predecessor. Is that the right word?
Yep.
In the future as well. So thanks again.
Excellent. Thanks for having me.
If you would have a chance, if you'd like to be a podcast guest, or if you'd like to sponsor the podcast, please reach out to us at podcast@schba.ca. Curtis, thanks again for being here.
Thanks so much. Cheers.